Think about Brazil, think about the glory years with Pelé, Ronaldinho, and more as their stars. I'm sure about that era, Neymar was the star of Brazil's team, even being the national team's top scorer ever. But now, the best Brazilian players haven't even been close to Neymar's level, which begs the question, do Brazil have a star problem? I grew up always seeing Neymar as Brazil's hero, as Brazil's icon. Since I've started following football, Neymar was at Barcelona. So for me, Brazil's always Neymar's team as long as I've watched the football. But I mean, I know that before Neymar, there's like Ronaldinho, Ronaldo, Pelé, a lot more other players like Zico as well, Kaká, a lot more players that kind of were that's also Brazil. Now I'm looking at the team. Obviously, I have some players good here and there, but I don't see anyone that stepped up to be their starter. I don't see anyone that could confidently say that if Brazil plays, this guy is going to score, going to assist. I don't see the Brazil team and see how they're playing and see how each players playing their team. I just don't look at Brazil as the same national team that they once were in like the early 2000s or in the 1990s before the 2000s. So for me, I mean, it's kind of I don't want to say sad, but it's a very big difference seeing Brazil like reading what Brazil once was, or seeing what Brazil once was, winning all the World Cups, and they have 5 World Cups, right? And they've been trying to win their 6th World Cup for a very long time now. Their fans make it such a big deal of, okay, 3 World Cups can be our 6th World Cup, and for a long time now, I think like they've ever won like 20 years or so. And it's been very much a while since they managed to even compete for the 6th World Cup title. And looking at their team, I feel like it's been a very big downgrade. And a star there is really what's needed, because Neymar is not as great as he once was. Obviously, now playing in Brazil, and in Brazil is not being an amazing player as he is. So it's still a bit of controversy around like Neymar that we all know, and we all get used to with Barcelona, especially his PSG days. But in those days, he was actually a very good player, but now I don't think he contributes as much. And I think it's being left out every single squad that Ancelotti has now made for Brazil. So you can definitely see that there needs to be a reign, a successor to Neymar's era at Brazil, let's say that way. And I don't think there's been a guy yet that stepped up and took on the role. And looking at how the Brazil team has played for the last few years, the Brazil team hasn't played a trophy in 6 years, right? That's when the trophy about 6 years ago with Copa America, and since then I think like they lost to Copa Americas. They've played in the World Cup and have not done anything spectacular. I mean, the last 2 World Cups at least, I don't remember particularly what they've done. 2014 one, but in 2018, 2022, the World Cups they've played in, they haven't gone for the quarterfinal loss. And I feel like that's, I mean, not really typical to what you used to see Brazil do in all their history. And you can very much see it's been a very big disappointment to see how Brazil is performing in the late 20 years in the World Cup. I think looking at what are the best players right now for Brazil, I think is easily Vinicius Junior and Rafinha. Talking about Vinicius Junior as a guy who last year was running up the Ballon d'Or, possibly for a lot of people when we should have won the Ballon d'Or, and Rafinha talking about a guy who's finishing 5th in the Ballon d'Or top 30 this year. There's a lot of people who are really angry and shocked against. Some people want him to win the Ballon d'Or. So you can see how good of footballers are, how high of a level both Vini and Rafinha at the club level, playing for Barcelona and Real Madrid, 2 teams who actually have a lot of iconic Brazilian players in their history. But I'm not seeing the type of impact that Vini has for Real Madrid. I'm not seeing the type of impact that Rafinha has in Barcelona, the same way that the impact they have on Brazil. Looking at the stats, Vinicius Junior has played 42 games for Brazil, and he has 8 goals, 7 assists. And Rafinha has 36 games, and he has 11 goals and 7 assists. Like, I'm not saying neither is bad, I don't think that. I think obviously are really bad outputs for a player. But when you think about a star, when you think about Ronaldo with Portugal, when you think Neymar with Brazil especially, you think of a star for national team, you don't look at players who put up his numbers, right? I'm expecting Vini to put up way more goals and way more assists in the amount of games he's played in, especially like he's not even playing against top European teams every single break. Also, European teams also have to play against well ranked teams than South American teams do, like Luxembourg and Liechtenstein, all those teams that, like obviously Portugal and England and Italy all have to play against those teams. Also, be easier to stack back some goals and assists. But even in South America, you have always like Paraguay, Honduras, teams who aren't really that hard to play against, don't really have a high level of competition. So it's not really a big excuse to see that Vini and Rafinha not really putting a lot of those numbers. And if you look at the numbers, especially like this season, he's put up with Barcelona. Like he's had 60 plus goal contributions this whole season, and yet he's not been able to even break 20 for Brazil in almost 40 games. So I feel like it's a bit very bit underwhelming to see all again these two guys who were Ballon contenders for in last year and this year have not managed to reproduce some type of outputs they do on club level to the national level. Looking at the reasons as why both these guys haven't really performed at their best and why they don't really work that well together, like there's really an obvious problem here that they both have Vinicius Jr. are left wingers. Obviously, Rafinha is way more versatile player than what Vinicius Jr. is. I think Vini is exclusively to be played as left winger. I think Rafinha, he can play as number 10, he can play as right winger, also can play as striker. We can see that his best form came in Barcelona as left winger. I don't really think it would make sense to, maybe it will make sense, maybe it won't make sense. I don't know if it will make sense to take Rafinha off from the left wing spot, which we having Bellerin season left winger, to take on Vini, who's a guy that even playing alone in the national team left winger has not really proven to be an amazing player there. So I feel like it will make a lot of sense to start away, put Rafinha away in their minds and the thoughts of playing left winger. Vinicius has played as striker sometimes for Brazil. I feel like right now the priority would put Rafinha into left winger than to occasionally imagine Vinicius as striker. The thing is, the Brazil team has a lot of I don't want to say flaws. I think like a lot of inconsistencies already. Like they don't have a solidified squad thought out. So I mean, pretty much like they have Rodrigo, Matheus Cunha, and Silvio Vitinho. Rodrigo is a guy that I'm really a big fan of. Right, I know Real Madrid this year, last year Ancelotti. I don't think they've gone that much well between the term two, and I think Rodrigo's career at Real Madrid is way more complicated than maybe it was like 2-3 years ago. But I still think he's a guy that plays pretty well. I think it's a guy that when he plays to Brazil, a left winger, or like even number 10, where he's played in the friendly against South Korea, actually played pretty well. It's a guy that can very much contribute. I think that's a guy that has to get some minutes into World Cup. It's a guy that can make some things happen. Also, Matheus Cunha is a guy that is obviously going to get minutes in the World Cup. I thought he seemed like he trusts him even to play number 9, even play number 10. So it's a guy that across his friendlies and across his qualifying match to the World Cup is a guy that's occasionally always getting minutes. So I feel Matheus Cunha is also a guy that I thought he has to put into plans and try to figure out how to fit in with him as well. Also, Estevão is a guy that I feel like the Brazil national team wants him to earn minutes in the World Cup. He's a guy that's very young, obviously, but he's playing pretty well at Chelsea, not flop at all, and also he's playing well at Brazil when he's called upon. So I feel like next World Cup, I mean, if you saw the games he started, Brazil has always won the games he started in, and he's been playing very well for Brazil. I feel like he's a guy that is earned the minutes, earned opportunity to earn regular minutes in the World Cup. And I feel like even for the best interest of the nation to kind of get the best of Estevão, I feel like it makes sense for them to get a lot of minutes with Estevão to World Cup, for them to get some experience and kind of get to know what it takes to play in the highest stage in world football. So apart from having to figure out how to play both Rafinha and Vini together, and apart from the fact that you have other players to fit into the squad, like as I said, and also have to figure out who is the striker, right? Who's the number 9? Because they haven't had a solidified number 9 option for a very long time, especially in the Neymar era. They really have a solidified number 9 option. They really have any guy who will come to Brazil squad and be like that guaranteed number 9 starter every single game. So this trend has also went over to this era of the modern era, let's say that way. You have João Pedro, a guy who's played pretty well at Chelsea, but obviously not great, and started to get the chances in Brazil and actually score some goals here and there, nothing anything in particular. But Matheus Cunha also a guy who can play there. We've also seen Vini play there and even score. I think that's an option to play Rafinha and Vinicius Jr. at both like left winger and striker. That's an option. Also have some players from the Brazil National League, like Zé Roque is a guy that's failed at Barcelona, but has now found his feet in Brazil. Also like Caio Jorge, another guy who failed to find his feet at Juventus, but now gone to Brazil and is in amazing form. Even a guy like Pedro, I'm not sure in which team he's right now, also a guy that I remember him being a Flamengo mostly. It's a guy in Brazil also playing pretty well. So Brazil has a lot of options that they can also like Ronaldo Souza and Richarlison, both guys who have been in Premier League for a very long time now. are both guys who have not really played the best in their careers in Premier League, are guys that can still contribute. So Brazil has a lot of options, and like, I'm not saying like it's Ancelotti's fault, because a lot of managers have come in and go, and they still have not found a really solidified answer to who gets that striker spot, right? So I feel like this is still something, because obviously left winger, you have to, like, if you play left winger, the striker is kind of your main partner, right? You can link him up with him, you can kind of pass the ball through, like you work together a lot in the pitch. So to not really have a solidified number 9 option to really build chemistry with, because like you're talking about international teams, right? You have an international break, like obviously like in certain month, you have one September, one October, one November. But apart from these like 3 consecutive international breaks, you don't really have much from that, and even like you go summers not even seeing them, so it's really hard to build chemistry if you don't really have a solidified option right near you. So I can guess like that is something that's not really helps the Brazil's national team in terms of being able to win games and being able to be the best team they could possibly be. Also, it not helps Rafinha and Vinicius Junior trying to build some chemistry and try to really understand what how to play with a striker partner if their partner chances every single match. I built a front four that in theory should be the best you can possibly field for Brazil. You have Vini left wing, Rafinha number 10, Rodrigo as right winger, and João Pedro as your striker. Now, I feel like this on paper looks very good. You have very amazing players on that front four, but I think in real life, I don't think this will work. I think this one probably way too compact. You don't have any single guy here who gives a lot of width. Vini and Rodrigo are both guys who want to win, likes to play a bit more inside. Rafinha is a guy likes playing inside. João is a guy likes playing inside. So I feel like it's a bigger problem if you have a way too compact front four. Also like a big creative force, like Matheus Cunha is a guy that will bring the counter creativity by his passing, right? You'll be able to get some good passes in. Rafinha is a guy that can still deliver those passes, but not a really world-class extent or really good extent. Vini and Rodrigo are not guys, like Rodrigo is a guy that likes to score more. Vini is a guy that likes to dribble more, again, it's more of a goal scorer. So don't really have any, I don't know how to say this, like you don't really have any playstyle architects in this front four. So that balance will kind of be very mixed up. And again, you also want to have Paquetá, Matheus Cunha in this team, I feel like are the most creative midfielders you have in the Brazil setup. And this way, I mean, you have to play either double pivots, which will kind of take away some creativity because I feel like the guys will drop a lot to help the build-up. So you're going to lose a lot of creativity in that first phase of the build-up, while Paquetá and Matheus Cunha are the guys who are more accustomed with dropping deep and being able to help in the first phase, second phase of the build-up, as opposed to Rafinha. So I feel like this front four, while on paper it looks amazing, I don't think Ancelotti can go in the team and play this lineup. And I think like he agrees with me because we've not seen this lineup even be played a single game. I mean, Ancelotti has only managed 6-7 games in his tenure as Brazil's national team manager. But there are 4 lineups that I feel like are options that they can use in the World Cup. But the rest are like lineups or formations or choices of front four that I included. Only really included players that really won't play much in the World Cup or maybe won't even be in the squad for the World Cup. So these 4 lineups are Vini, Rodrigo, Estevão and Cunha worked really great, scored 5 goals in the friendly South Korea. You had Martinelli, Rafinha, Estevão and João Pedro, who also were pretty good, 3 goals scored. Martinelli, Cunha, Rafinha and Vinicius worked pretty good, not really that great. 1 goal. Then Vinicius, Richarlison and Estevão didn't really work and had 0 goals. So looking at these 4 lineups, I think like it is very common, it is very obvious we're going to see our front 4 next World Cup, right? I think the only game it used front 3 Ancelotti was in the last game I told you about, the Vinicius and Richarlison Estevão front 3. That didn't score a single goal. I think a pretty weak team as well. They didn't really work, and I think also his first game in charge of Brazil. So he kind of got rid of the front 3 very quickly and went to the 4-2-3-1 formation. Kind of go to the front 4 option. And we've seen a lot of combinations. As I said, I don't think this team has solidified the front 4 option yet. There have been some strikers there, some left wingers there, some right wingers there. I feel like the main player in the best lineups is Estevão. Is a guy that's playing very well right winger. I feel like a guy that maybe gets the nod as the starting right winger for next year. Also, Rodrigo can be used more of a super sub or non-formation. but I feel like Estevão has earned his spot. I feel like João Pedro is a guy that, obviously, they play both Matheus Cunha and João Pedro as strikers in this scenario of who, like, the ones who played the best, who scored the most goals. Matheus Cunha and João Pedro were both strikers. Guys who are a bit more natural strikers, are like Vinicius Junior playing as striker. Matheus Cunha and João Pedro are two guys who are a bit more accustomed to playing as strikers. I feel like João Pedro will kind of be the best choice you go for, because he's a guy that's more like, he's more of a number 9. When you're playing against these big teams, you're gonna have to have this kind of really more of a number 9 accustomed to score goals. And because if you have a game, you don't want to have a player that's gonna waste opportunities in front of the goal, because one game can change it all. So you can really have a guy with a lot of opportunities, or might play bad against the defense, or if some type of player comes physical against them, you're gonna be able to handle it. So I feel like João Pedro should be able to get a nod as a main striker for the next World Cup. Now I feel like a lot resides on should play Vinicius alone, should play Rafinha alone, should play both of them together. I feel like this is the main question that Ancelotti has now has to answer. I think it's in September. I don't think Vini was available to play international break. Now Rafinha not the one that's available to play for international break. So I don't think Ancelotti has been able to really play a lot of games with Rafinha and Vini together to really symbolize, to really get how they play together. Like the one lineup we've seen that both Rafinha and Vini play together, as Rafinha right winger and Vini as striker. So I think it'll be a weird mix of combos, because like we're gonna expect Rafinha or Vini being play left winger, and we saw both these guys played in other positions, and it worked kind of well. Not really that great, not really that good. They scored one goal. I'm not sure I think it was against Argentina, and they did lose 4-1 that game. I'm pretty sure. I'm being stupid. No, it wasn't that game at all. I don't know what game it was, but it was a bit odd. I don't think it's gonna be a lineup that Ancelotti's gonna take forward a lot, because I don't think it is that good to really bet on. Now I feel like the best front three maybe would be with Martinelli, Rafinha, Estevão, João Pedro. I think like Martinelli is obviously not a great winger, right? I think we've seen Arsenal. I think a lot of people get angry with him. I don't think he's that reliable in the World Cup. It's a guy that gives width, right? It's a guy that's gonna up the touchline. Kind of like I don't think like it's the same type of player that Vini is, like the type of players that want to deal the most, want to kind of use his space with defenders. But Vini does that as well as playing half space and trying to allocate to be more, take more responsibilities as a star player will do in Real Madrid. But Martinelli is more of a side piece, as you may see and may say. It's a guy that's probably plays on close to the touchline, is gonna restrict himself the area, gonna give you some space for the defenders to stretch their back line and give the players in the middle to start working a bit more. Now, do I think that maybe Vini and Rafinha combination could work? I mean, I feel like it's going to be very tough to see that, because obviously, as I said, maybe it also depends on who the right winger is. Maybe Estevão can take more of a role in where it's a bit more wide, so that you can kind of replace the lack of width you have on Rafinha and Vini on that left side. You can kind of pay it back on the right side. Maybe that's something that can kind of be used. Maybe not. I don't know. I feel like this can be a very big question. I also want to see how big of a role Rodrigo is going to have. So I feel like all these three, Rodrigo might be the guy who most consistently performs the better across all these guys. And Rodrigo, I mean, is able to play in both wings as striker, number 10. It's a guy who's very, very versatile. I feel like he can fit in anyone an opponent wants to play against. I feel like Rodrigo can play a different role as to what you want. So again, maybe like the formation with Vini, Rodrigo, Estevão, and Cunha, I thought maybe it's also a very good option. Maybe try out Rodrigo more number 10, try and see how good it is there. Maybe go like with Rafinha and Rodrigo, or maybe go with Vini, Rodrigo, and Rafinha. I also don't think that could be very much great. Again, lack of width still kind of hurts me there. And I feel like playing the World Cup against all these big teams, I feel like the minor error or the minor flaw in your team like can be very exploited in these big tournaments. So I'm a bit afraid that if they want to go with Vini, Rodrigo, and Rafinha, that's the solution. We've seen across football a lot of stories that maybe just putting out their best talents on paper on the pitch together really doesn't work that well. So I feel like Ancelotti really has to be careful, try and find out the best solution for this Brazil team. I do think that before next month, where I think it's the next international break, I feel like until next month, yes, to have an idea of which front four, or what he wants front four to be, or what he wants front four to look like. because then I don't know how much international breaks you have until the World Cup. I think they might be able to play some friendlies for the World Cup. I feel like 1 or 2 weeks before the World Cup, you can play some friendlies here and there to kind of gain some form and some fitness to go into the World Cup. But maybe like there's one, maybe like the international break around February or March. I might be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But I feel like I'd be like, if they don't go into November, at least an established idea of what they want to play with. Obviously, maybe like Rafinha can be available, or Vini won't be available, or like maybe João Pedro won't be available. Obviously, I have some issues I have to deal with. But I really hope that come next month, Ancelotti and us as fans watching their games have a more bright idea of what Ancelotti wants to do with his team, of what the front four is more likely to be come time for next year's World Cup. Again, I'm not really sure. I don't know. Obviously, if Ancelotti's not going to be sure about his front four, obviously I'm not going to be sure as well. I'm not the one who says that this is the one he has to play. I don't think so. I was going to say my opinion is maybe we see either one of Vini or Rafinha can use more as super subs, and we see either Martinelli being used as left winger, or maybe we force Stefan to play a different role. I just want Ancelotti to kind of find a solution. Obviously, again, as I said, the international manager is a very difficult place to be in. It's only been a job since June. Is a very short time, especially as a national team manager, to kind of figure out what to do with your team. So I feel like it's going to be put on the spot here. But I really feel like I really want him to kind of find a solution for next month. If not, come for next year and try to really get a solution. I feel like next year gonna have a bigger point as João Rafinha plays in this position, and now both Vini and Rafinha are playing at club level, because maybe come next year we see Vini slow down a bit of the form against Real Madrid, maybe we see Rafinha slow down a bit of form against Barcelona, we don't know. Obviously Rafinha has had a big injury, maybe we see him kind of have some consequences of that injury, I don't know. I think a lot of things will happen in Brazil. I feel like the one thing I demand or I expect from Ancelotti, that next year we at least get to see consistent front four, because you don't see at that time the same front four in 2 matches in a row. I think it's gonna be very tough to come to World Cup with some chemistry already installed to the team and with the idea of wanting to play like Ancelotti wants them to play.